read this house regrets the female narrative. And our opposition argued that the male narrative is silenced by the media. And they want more equal rights for men in the media. I say that men have these equal rights to talk the male narrative in the media, but that men choose not to use this male narrative because the media reflects men as this people with power. So the problem is not underplaying the female, regretting the female narrative, but regretting media's portrayal of man in society. Because but before I get deeper into that, I will talk about a few points of rebuttal. I feel that opening government underplays the emotions of man. If we say that man and women are becoming more equal, we can also say that not all men are these strong men who are not emotional. Men, in some cases, are in these ages more emotional than some women. So saying that the male narrative is underplayed because women are more emotional is sexist. So we also say when we look at men and women in the media and we look at child rape, we see that the media reports just as much about boys being raped in schools than girls. And we also see that when girls are raped in schools, it's usually boys. But that does not mean that the media does not show both sides. The problem is that male rape in adolescence are not always this available because of men's media portraying men in society as these studs. Okay? First I want to start my argument by bringing your attention to a theory called the muted group theory. And when we look at the muted group theory, we would see that women, as a marginalized groups, are more silenced in the media than men. Because, yes, I will take your point.
Okay. At one point you say that men are portrayed as studs, and in the other word you say that men are sometimes more sensitive than women. What are you actually saying?
I am saying that media portrays men differently, but in the news men are more sensitive. But through television shows, we see men as these studs. If we take into account something like How I Met Your Mother, Barney is not this emotional guy. He is the stud. And the more he sleeps with girls and women, the more respect he gets from other men. I take your attention to Not a Father's Day episode. Okay, I hope that answers your questions. Okay, when we go back to the muted group theory, we would see that women are more prone to be silenced by the media than men, because men are rules the media. Marginalized groups do not have a voice in the media. Taking away the female narrative will be the same as silencing women in society, because women do not have equal rights in the media as men do. Usually the news are more than political, and what do we see in politics? We see more men than women. Taking away the female narrative is taking away their voice. We can also state that in some communities, men are seen as dominant. And when it comes to sex, the more sex a man has, the more fertile he is, the better, the more experienced he is seen. And in that case, women are raped more. Because the more you rape, the more sex you have, the more fertile you will see. What about that person who cannot get sex? Well, wouldn't he be more prone to rape? And then society shows men through the media as these studs, not now. And then they show men through the media as these studs in society, which also underplays men who do not want to go to the police reporting rape, because that will take away their manliness. The media underplays their place in society. So the problem is not the female narrative, but media's portrayal of men in society.
Point.
Yes.
we want to say that it's not the fact that media portrays it as that, it's that media portrays it as more important. And the fact that because of that, now the whole of society views it as more important. So what you're saying is because of media, the woman...
I don't have to take it, it's longer than 15 seconds. Okay, yes.
Okay. Well, what you've said, aren't you actually also now being sexist by saying that men only want sex and that men are viewed as the more sex they have, the more powerful they are? What about the women's side of that? Aren't you also being sexist now?
I'm not being sexist in the sense that we cannot underplay certain cultural communities that have certain things in their culture, like sex, and women having an understatement. We are not at equal. Men and women are not equal in this country. Let me get back to this. Therefore, oh crap. So I close by saying that because of the muted group theory, women are more silenced in the media. Therefore, taking away the female narrative is unfair. Because for some women, this is the only voice, the only way they can voice their views through the media. And taking away this voice is giving, and men are underplayed by the media through society and not the female narrative, I think.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to reiterate the point that we've been trying to make all night, that we do not want to downplay or neglect the narrative of the female in terms of rape. We simply feel that there is no equality and minorities are being misrepresented. When I say minorities, I refer obviously to men. Also transsexuals. Rape with transsexuals is not as defined, not as commonplace in the media. This point I'm trying to make is this is a minority that is getting undue negligence in the media. I'd also like to state that yes, it is true that for the largest part of human history, women have been victims of sexism. Women have been oppressed much more than men ever. But in this specific context, in the context of the media, this is no longer applicable in terms of gender equality. Men are not being represented as much in the media in terms of rape. Earlier was mentioned the fact that, yes, in the media, boys being raped is mentioned quite often. Once again, these are children, not men.
Point of information. Isn't a boy then a man? Isn't a boy a boy? Isn't it one gender?
I agree with you, yes, but this is not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is there are different social expectations of children. Children in our culture are allowed to speak out against abuse. They are encouraged, in the media especially. Men not so much. Men, there are expectations for men. They must be tough, they must be the protectors, they must be the hunters. They can't be vulnerable. They can't speak out and say, I was vulnerable. And I do not think there's a logical reason for this. Yes, obviously, women are physically more vulnerable. That does not mean that rape must then be more traumatizing for them. There is no reason why a man should be able to handle rape better.
Speaking about rape and saying that it should not be as traumatizing, do you not believe that a girl who's age 7 or a baby who's 4 months old is going to suffer from traumatization more compared to a man who is 30 or 40 years old?
Once again, I'm not speaking of children, I'm speaking of men versus women in this context. Grown-ups. Okay, secondly, I'd like to say that the focus in the media, the focus on the female narrative in the media, I suspect it is logical to argue that it instills a false sense of security and perhaps even invulnerability in men. Also, you mentioned How I Met Your Mother earlier. in general, series and movies portray men like that, and these are not men that are frowned upon, they're respected. The more sexy he gets, the more respected he is. I think in a social context, that is what is often expected of men. Men want to be like Barney. But Barney is not an emotional character. Barney is tough. Barney is not, I don't know, soft. So once again, there's not room for sympathy in the media for men. Okay, I think I'm done actually.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Before I get to my arguments, I would like to highlight the following. From the opening half of the debate, both two teams from Team Government and Team Opposition failed the most important aspect of this debate. The key was the dominance of the female narrative. I think none of both teams explained what do we mean when we say female, the dominance of the female narrative. So, okay, since I'm not allowed to do this, so I'll do it. When we talk about the dominance of the female narrative, we refer to females giving an account of what happened to them, of what they experienced during the time they were raped or during the time they thought they were raped. And in this case, they use platforms such as police officials where they give their testimonies and their statements. They also use the media where they go to newspapers, and also counseling services that are available. Okay, looking at our the last document of the closing opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, we come from a global society where men have dominated over women. Besides the Victorian age or era where Queen Victoria and certain women ruled, that's the only case where which women ruled over men. So, by promoting the dominance of the female narrative in terms of rape, this is a situation which leads to a situation whereby women are able to reach the same standards as men in terms of social status. Before I go to argument, I have the following points of rebuttals. The first speaker from Team Government mentioned that women are seen as more emotional than men. I don't agree, because if we take a classic example like Oscar Pistorius' trial, it was revealed that the guy is suffering from a general anxiety disorder. So, generally everyone is emotional, but looking at Oscar, that was a very extreme disease or illness or disorder. So that reveals that he's also more emotional on certain cases. Then the second speaker from Team Government mentioned men are raped, and why should it not be seen as important if men are raped? If you come to me and say that a man was raped, I'll be skeptical, because men are seen as people who are generally physically strong, built-in, muscles. So if you say a man was raped, who would take that into consideration? Someone to think about it. Then the first speaker from closing government mentioned that men who are raped do not testify, they are afraid to expose their weaknesses and vulnerability. I don't agree, because after the end of apartheid, the apartheid policy, the TRC was introduced, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, in which perpetrators of rape came out and revealed that, okay, I committed this and this and this incident. And the victims of such cases also testified that it's true. I was a victim of rape. No, thank you. I was a victim of rape. So this is a case where men have come out and said, we were raped. And also we have so many cases in prison where men use counseling services to say, we were raped, I was raped. So in terms of men not having the courage to come out and say they were raped, I don't agree with that point. Now for my arguments. Okay, the reason we say we should not regret the dominance of the female narrative. First argument. We believe that in terms of distressing and criminal activities such as rape, women do not exaggerate events. Why do I say women do not exaggerate events? Because if you ask a woman to account or the recollection of what happened and that he or she was raped, she will go into detail. the most scary parts that one want to hear during a rape encounter. Second argument that I have, it's always the victim's case that the legal authorities want to hear. And in this case, yes, it's true that both men and women are raped, but it's only the minority of men that are raped, and it's the majority of women that are raped. So in this case, it's always the victim's case that the legal authorities want to hear, and the victim's case, and the victim in this case is the woman. So, and in most cases, when a woman is raped, there are procedures taken. She doesn't just start testifying. First, she has to go through testing of semen and stuff, evidence on her clothing, because if she testifies right away, she's still traumatized. She might tell lies. So there are processes. So in terms of men, if a man is raped, but there are not a lot of incidences where testing will be done because looking at physical organs, genetical organs, women do not have an organ that can penetrate through a man. Last time I checked. Not physically. No, thank you. Another point that I would like to highlight. This is an indirect point. If you take into account the dominance of the female narrative in a certain way exposes high officials. When women testify, they expose the illegal and corrupt activities of high officials. A classic example is the rape saga in 2008 of the current president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma. We all remember his rape saga. So, for most of the people, in terms of that rape saga was told on his, most of the people were on his side. Some were saying he didn't commit the rape, some were saying he raped the girl. It doesn't matter whether he raped the girl or not, but it shows that he, at certain times, is involved in controversy. So, with that in mind, that can alert international diplomats and dignitaries of other countries that South Africa, at certain stages, since by that time he was not the president, but now he is, some people will take into consideration before going into business with South Africa, they will take into consideration that event because he is the president. So this rape case in a certain way, it highlighted the status and the reputation that South Africa has. So in closing, we have mentioned to you how rape affects the reputation of a certain country.
So, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I really need to make the point that you guys use a lot of special circumstances. I mean, the Zuma case, okay, cool, but why are we using a case that isn't part of our everyday lives? Yes, we're looking at like these huge political figures, but they can't be related to the general public because we have this huge problem where we're making this only happens to big people as a thing, but now we have this thing where we're actually trying to make a point for the minorities and the people that aren't in the limelight. Because, okay, everyone notices when you rape these huge profile men or women, but okay, in your case, women now, but I don't believe that these celebrities have as much permanence as they need to in the normal lives of people. Okay. My other thing was, and the prison, we are completely disregarding prison rape. We're saying that men cannot be raped because they do not have the parts necessary to be raped, because women can't rape men.
Word of information.
Yes.
Have you heard of anal sex?
I have heard of anal sex. This is actually where I'm going right now. This is the fun part. I don't think I'm supposed to say it's the fun part.
Hold it.
Okay, anal sex, like we were saying. But why women can actually rape men as well? But anal sex, men are raped. Isn't that just as traumatizing, if not more traumatizing? And then we have that. That's where I'm coming in with my prison rape. So we're saying that I just completely went into my point.
Point of information.
Yes.
The argument or the notion is not men or
political men or whatever, or adolescent men. Emotion is the female narrative. We are not focusing on kids or something like that. We're focusing on the female narrative, not celebrities and that thing.
Time.
Okay, did, but you are using these things as examples, and we're focusing as men as a kind of point of reference, because if we don't say men as opposed to the woman narrative, what are we referring to? Woman as opposed to blank space. If that makes any sense. And then, as always, we are reiterating that we are against females speaking out. And a problem that I had is I was saying that the majority of women are raped. Men are ashamed to come out as being raped because of this whole manly thing that you have discussed. And then we have the thing of, will Barney, a manly man, admit and stand up in a campaign against rape? No, he won't, because we have that thing of, we're manly men now, and that is unfair towards the man, since it takes away a lot of his power, having to stand in and have this image.
Point of information?
Yes.
But can we say that Barney's portrayal is not the male narrative, but the media and their portrayal of men in society, and not the male narrative?
But does the media not... doesn't the media kind of become something we strive to? Men are seen as they want to be these alpha males. Okay, and if you're like a scrawnier guy, you want to be this alpha Barney guy. So we can't say it's the media's fault, because you're allowing the media to do that to you. And you're using the media as a kind of shield against men being raped.
Point of information.
This is really like a discussion. Yes.
But then we can argue that it is the media portrayal of men in society, but not the female narrative that underplays the importance of male rape. Or the existence of male.
Can you say that again?
That is fine. You can.
Okay, so we can say, so it's not, it's the media overestimating men's position in society. No, I don't know what. So, carry on, sorry.
Okay, and then we have that thing about the female narrative is very important, but we are making it a bigger deal that women can't defend them, we're making it too much of a big deal that women can't defend themselves, since it is a biological thing, and that can't be seen as an action. Can I just finish a sentence? Please just let me finish a sentence. What was I saying? We can't see it as a thing of women who can't defend themselves, because men can also not, that isn't the point, because men can also not defend themselves. If you're in a rape situation, if you're in a prison, you can be tied up and overpowered by a bunch of men, and then you can't really be defending yourself. So, can I just stop now? You did good. Point of information?
No, Just one.
Okay, in conclusion, we believe that women get as much attention as they need, but that men are underrepresented in media, and that they should be given more attention, and that would prevent a lot of male rapes. And I'm done.
Greetings once again to team government, team opposition, and the House at large. Gentlemen, ladies, a lot has been said in this debate. So, from closing government's time for whipping. Before I get to my argument, if you take a look at statistics, it has been proven that every 17 seconds, a woman is raped in South Africa. So, taking the statistics into consideration, this shows that there are more female victims than male victims. So that is why we should promote the dominance of the female narrative. Because since there are majority of women in this who experience the brutality of this rape and crime, they can, no thank you, they can give a recollection of what they think might have happened. Okay, I only have two arguments to further or strengthen closing Okorotien's case. The first argument is there are always two sides to a story. So there was one key point that I picked up from the opening government or the government bench is that some men are afraid to come out and express themselves saying I was raped. But have you ever considered that some men were given the platform to come out and express themselves, yet they refused? There are some where they say, can you please come and here's the person come and explain what happened to you? Yes, they refused. Have you ever considered it? Make yourself out.
But why do you think would they refuse to use these platforms? Maybe because they're afraid.
Afraid of what, if I may ask? Okay, to answer your question, why would they be afraid to answer those platforms? Maybe taking a look at our background, where we come from, men is seen as a dominant sex. So maybe that's one of the reasons. But my point is, some men have been given the platform to come and express their views. It's not like they were deprived of the platform. They were given it. So that's the point I made about there are always two sides to a story. And the issue of biasness. In terms of biasness, we know there's a lot of, in terms of biasness also occurs in rape instances. We all know if a man, boy, or male goes to police station to report or lay a charge against a woman and been raped by the police officials, first thing they will do is they will have counseling, protocols, and take the man away. But that's true. But mostly it depends on how the man in question who was raped, or you cannot just go to a police station as a man in this 21st century and say I was raped by a woman. For a black person, especially black people, for a black policeman who's standing there, it will be difficult for him to believe you. So,
Point of information.
yes.
Are you then saying that it is more serious if women are raped than men being raped?
No, it's not serious that men are raped.
I want to know if you think that it is more serious when a woman is raped than when a man is raped.
No, it's serious on both accounts. When a man is raped, even when a woman is raped, it's serious on both accounts. But men in the society we're living in terms of the woman, it's very serious because, like I said, I'm repeating myself again, from the background we come from, women were deprived of the right of freedom of expression. So when a woman is raped, a lot happens. Police officials are quick to act to open a case. Yes.
Okay, but then why is it more important women get their rape story out and a man cannot get his rape story out? Why is her narrative more dominant than a man's narrative? Why?
Mostly when a woman is raped, when she gives a statement, it's published publicly. So it gets out there, everyone, it's not only the news, it's also on print media everywhere. So in terms of a man, and a woman in that position should be in a vulnerable position. So after the rape incident, she will be easily persuaded to do this. So to do this and this and this in terms of getting the story out. But in terms of a man who knows that he might get criticized, saying you're not a man, you should have yourself, such a thing. So I think that answers the point. Are there any more points of information in the government bench?
If you say that a woman needs to get a story out, then why can men not get their story out? You want women to be dominant, but why can't men be dominant as well? Why can they not be equal?
Coming back to my earlier point when I mentioned that there are some men who have been given the platform to express their views, but they refuse. So it highly depends on the personality of the man who is being involved in the rape incident. Yes, please.
Why would you only refer to some men?
Because they are the minority when it comes to being victims of rape. Okay, guys, let me answer all your points of information. Some of our case, first speaker of those in government came here and mentioned the issue of first speaker of those in government came here and mentioned the issue of women not exaggerating when it comes to giving an account of their incidences, rape incidences. And number two, women not giving their recollection of what happened immediately after the incident. First, they have to go through certain medical procedures because if they tell their story while they're still traumatized, they might lie. And third point of introduced was women testifying about the rape, some of the rape incidents they had somehow reveals and exposes high officials like presidents of a certain country. And we stand by the notion that there are always two sides to a story.